Hi guys, it's Steph from IDRIVEACLASSIC, and today's video is a little bit different because it's something totally, we didn't plan it at all, and I think you're going to absolutely love it. We found a massive garage slash kind of yard slash secret barn of all sorts of amazing classic cars, including pre-war classic cars, iconic 70s, and would you believe it, a Morris Minor. So stay tuned, because in this video I'm going to show you all the cool cars we saw and tell you a little bit about them. There are some really cool cars on this forecourt, and it's strange to think it was the Princess that caught my eye, but actually once you start digging there's some really interesting European stuff here, including this Trabant, and this, which I believe, according to a friend who's interested in pre-war cars, a Peugeot 301 saloon. This is a Mark II Golf. And a little bit of trivia for you, which somebody told me, is that the Mark II Golf is one of the most popular second-hand cars in South Africa, and one of my most hated cars actually. And transversely, this is one of my favourite cars, the Morris Minor, and this one started its life in England, and it's a little bit sad it's here now. And then this is a Mercedes, and judging by the rest of the cars here, this is actually in quite good shape. I would have liked to have shown you the inside, but unfortunately it's locked, which is probably because it is one of the nicest cars on this forecourt. And it's got a sticker in the back for L, which I believe is what Luxembourg cars have to carry. I'm just going to pan out across the back there so you can have a look, because this is the shiniest car on this forecourt. And again, this is one of those cars that came out relatively, it's relatively new compared to some of the other cars here, but it's not a car that you see anymore. And then I'm not too good on Eastern Bloc cars, so I apologise, but I believe this is a Skoda 110 LS. Now, lucky for us, this Skoda is unlocked. So again, this is a Skoda 110 LS. It's a rear engine, rear wheel drive car, and it's a 1.1 litre engine. Now if you'd gone for the Skoda 100, you would have got a 1 litre engine, so I definitely would have picked a 110. And the only variation you could get was a 4-door saloon, and it was marketed as a small family car for kind of people on a bit of a budget, and there were 40,000 units made of this car, and it looks like this one's been used as a taxi, which is quite cool. Now I'm going to just kind of walk you around to another one of my favourite cars on this forecourt, which is the Renault 4. I absolutely love the Renault 4. If I had to pick a French car, I think I would pick this. I absolutely love it. I mean, it's got everything you need. Look, it's got 4 doors, it's got a headrest, which is better than what I've got. And now I really like the windows. I'm going to see if I can get in. No such luck. So some of the cars here are locked, some of them are unlocked. But I just want to show you that window there, so the way it slides back is quite interesting. And these actually go for quite a bit of money actually in England, when I've seen them go on Car and Classic and stuff. So I'm going to show you some of the other cars that I've spotted. I'll hold my hands up and say that I'm not a big fan of pre-war cars. They always look like, probably like my car looks to people that like modern cars, absolutely ancient, and not something that I would necessarily gravitate towards. However, I do really appreciate this car, and I feel really sad for it that it's here, that I wanted to feature it. So this, I believe, please don't be cross if I'm wrong, is a Peugeot 301. They were made between 1932 and 1936. And I was quite impressed to read that there were over 70,000 produced. And it was marketed as a large family car. And you could get a 4-door saloon, a 2-door cabriolet, a 2-door coupe, or a 3-door van. And it had a 1500 straight-4 engine, and it was replaced by the 302. And it's such a classy little car, and I feel really sad that it's here, just sat here rotting, because it should be somewhere being appreciated. It's managed to make it through nearly 100 years, and it doesn't seem right that it's just sat here, propped up on bits of wood, growing moss all over it, and just waiting to be scrapped. And you can already see that it's starting to fall apart. There's door handles that are coming off. Some of the panels are starting to look really rotten, and it just doesn't seem right for a car with such enormous amounts of history to just be sat here doing absolutely nothing. This is an Austin Princess, and this is pretty special to find abroad because they're pretty rare in the UK, let alone here, with only around 100 left in the UK. They were made between 1975 and 1978, and they were succeeded by the Austin Ambassador. So they've got a pretty kind of hot and cold reputation in the UK. They're a bit of a Marmite car. We've actually persuaded the guy in French to start the car up. So let's have a listen to how this B series engine sounds. Our new French friend was very kindly persuaded to start the car up for us. So we're going to let him start it up now. It does sound a little bit rattly because it hasn't got an exhaust on the car. Now let's take a look at some of the other cars that this very interesting man has on his forecourt and hidden away. And this is a Skoda Felicia, which is essentially a reworked Favourite. You could have picked one of these up between 1994 and 2001, and you could have picked either a 1.3, a 1.6 or a 1.9 petrol engine. Confession time, I don't know what this is. I've only managed to work out that it's a Citroen pickup, but if you do know what it is, please do leave me a comment, because I did a bit of Googling and couldn't work it out. And then I'm sure all you American fans would know what this is. This is a Ford Mustang that has definitely seen its best days, which is a shame, because if it was actually in any way, shape or form worth saving, it would be worth, a decent amount of money, because it is a Ford. As I come round, again, another confession, I am trespassing in the man's garden because I couldn't really work out how to say, can I please go and see all the old wrecks in your garden? The guy that owns all this has been really good, by the way, and let us have a real look around, and he's been quite open to letting us look in the cars and letting us kind of ask a few questions of what we can make out. He doesn't speak any English, so he's been a great guy so far. And for those of you that are tuning in from abroad and don't know what this is an iconic London black cab, also known as an Austin FX4. They were made between 1958 and 1997, and it's interesting that it seems to have been used as a taxi over here because it's still got the taxi light on top. Apologies if my pronunciation is slightly off, but I believe this is a Renault Frégate made between 1951 and 1960. This one's quite late because, judging by this little sign, it's a 1959. Now, if you were going to pick these new off the forecourt, you could have gone for a 4-door saloon or a 5-door estate, and all of them came with a 2-litre engine. Now, this design was conceived after World War II, and they were aimed at middle-class consumers. However, they were quite a slow seller, because by 1953 only 25,000 were sold that year, and they were outsold by the Citroen 11, which at that point was pretty dated because it had been out for 15 years and it was only available in black. So it wasn't the big hit that they'd kind of predicted it to be. Now I'm going to show you some of the other cars because there's some really interesting stuff here. I'm still trespassing through this man's garden, and I've just discovered these Peugeot 403s. Now, for those of you who are a little bit limited on your knowledge of the Peugeots, these were made between 1955 and 1966. And they must have been just as popular as the Morris Minor, because over 1 million were made, and they were assembled in France, Australia, Argentina and New Zealand. And you could have got a 4-door sedan, a 5-door estate, a 2-door convertible, a 2-door pickup, a 3-door van. And if you're a Colombo fan and based in America, you may recognise these cars because Lieutenant Colombo actually drove a battered 403. So there are a lot of other cars to go and have a look at. So I'm just going to show you a couple of key details, and then what I'm going to do is I've managed to get the man to show us his barn. So let's have a look inside his barn, because then we're going to see some really cool stuff. Don't ask me how, but we managed to convince this chap to show us around his locked barn yard sort of area. And I feel like this is one of those exciting reveals where they show you stuff on telly. And so we got brought through, and the first thing that I noticed was the Rover just over there, which we're going to come back and look at once we've had a little look through his barn. So he took us through, and as you can kind of see as we walk through, he's got all his parts in here. So every single part that he's taken off and kept and that he thinks will be important for a car in the future, he's kept in here. And I wish we didn't have such a language barrier, because I had so many questions and there were things that I just couldn't ask him because I didn't know how to say it, or I don't think he really understood what we were asking. But it was really nice for him to show us this anyway. And the first thing that I came a cropper with was trying to work out what this was. And he's told me that it's a Simca, but I'm sorry if I'm wrong, because it's not really my area of specialty. So I do apologise, but I thought I would feature it anyway, because it's really interesting to see some of the stuff that people keep on the continent, because it's totally different to what we've got. I've seen cars today that I haven't seen anywhere else. And I'm going to show you the car park next to it as well, which again I'm a little bit shaky on, but I believe is a Talbot Matra Murena. Apologies if I've got the pronunciation incorrect there. And they were made between 1980 and 1983, and it was a 3-door hatchback sports car, and there were only 10,500 units made, so it's no surprise really that I haven't seen one before. And the production on these ended when the factory that was making them was the first to make the Renault Espace minivan. This is a Rover 200 series R8 convertible and was manufactured by the Austin Rover Group. Now this particular model is a Mark II, and these were made between 1989 and 1995. And this particular one is looking a little bit sorry for itself actually. It's very mouldy inside, and I don't think it's been used for quite some time. Now you could have got various engine options on these, including the 1.4K series, which is actually what I had in my Metro. Now this was designed in collaboration with Honda. Now I don't think this is going anywhere, so let's go and have a look at some of the other cars, because this isn't the most exciting. Now, I've done a little bit of Googling once I've got home, and I believe this is a Simca Aronde. And for those of you who didn't know this, and I certainly didn't, Simca is a French manufacturer, and I think this car is, I would say this is probably my favourite car here. Now, these were made between 1951 and 1963, and it was the company's first unibody car. Also, fun fact, Aronde, which I have checked on Google and I think I'm pronouncing correctly, means swallow, which was the company's logo at the time. Also, I've managed to get in and have a look inside, so I'm just going to pan out. It's not in great shape, unfortunately, but it does give you a little bit of insight into how it looks. It looks very American actually, on the inside. So we're going to shut that up now, and again, bit of accident damage there. I found this in the accident damage bit of the yard, which is a shame really, because it deserves another life. It doesn't deserve to be finished off here. Now I know I only ever talk about cars, but I couldn't leave this tractor out because it's my favourite colour, orange, and also it's quite old as well, and we're in quite an agricultural area, so I'm not really surprised to see this here, but it's a bit sad that it's just parked up. There were a huge number of modern cars here too, all accident damaged and completely written off. And from what I could gather from my very brief conversation with the man and his understanding of my very awful French, is that this was a breaker's yard too. There were so many cars here. I mean, I probably could have spent 2 or 3 hours here. I did spot this, I think it's a Studebaker, and unfortunately the doors wouldn't open, so I couldn't show you the inside. And the grass was so high, I kept tripping over. I'm going to show you some of the other cars that are a little bit easier to access, but I couldn't leave this out of the video because I've never actually seen one in real life. Okay, so this is one of the coolest cars to ever come out of Italy, and I probably think that because I'm a massive small car fan. And for those of you that haven't twigged already, this is the iconic Fiat Panda, and this is a first generation, and you can tell because of the way it looks. These were made from 1980, and the facelift was initiated in 1986, and you could have gone for an engine as small as 652cc on one of these bad boys.
We've had so much fun exploring today. We've seen so many different cars, including cars I've never seen before, and I've definitely added that Simca to my dream car list. I really hope you've enjoyed the video today. Don't forget to hit like if you've enjoyed it too, and leave me a comment below with your favourite car in the video, because I'd really love to know. And don't forget, new videos go up every Wednesday and every Sunday, so make sure you hit subscribe. And until next time, take care and drive safely.